Hi everyone, welcome back. Time for another video about electric cars. The other day it dawned on me how difficult it is for people that don't have an electric car to understand the benefits and to understand how good they really are. And I think the reason why it's so difficult to understand is because the benefits are so obvious. They're right in front of your face and you don't think that those benefits are worth having an electric car until you've actually owned one. So today we've gone out for a drive in the Kona. Basically we've got a workman in the house today, so we've decided to keep the social distance, not just keeping 2 meters apart inside the house, but to go out, leave them to it, and have complete isolation. And that seems to be a very practical way of continuing. He can get on and do his job. We can actually go out, do some shopping, take Cracker for a walk. Sadly, I can't actually do the walk. I've done my Achilles in, and I can't actually walk at the moment very much. I can drive a car, but if I walk too many steps, then I'm in pain. So at the moment, I'm resting up and trying to recover from that. So while Susan and Cracker are out having a walk on the beach, it is a fantastic day out. The sun is shining, it's mixed clouds, the sea is calm. It's absolutely beautiful here. Norfolk is still in lockdown really. A lot of the public car parks for Norfolk and the coast are closed. They're not encouraging people, they don't want people here, they don't want us here, I guess. Although it is allowed. We're parked on a road, so they can't really shut this down. And although there's nobody on the beach apart from a few people exercising and a few dog walkers, it is an odd feeling. It's an odd feeling of, I know they don't want us here, I know we're allowed to be here, but I'd rather not have come. This is our first trip out to the coast since lockdown, etc., etc. And it's no wonder, because we shouldn't be going out. But even though today, we're using common sense and keeping extreme distance from the guy that's in the house, it still makes you feel guilty coming out to the shops, a few miles from your house. It is an odd feeling, but it's very good for the soul. Just getting back in the car, driving economically in the sunshine, seeing the coast. I don't have to go for a walk. I don't have to have my feet on the beach. I am actually enjoying, and since I've been cooped up for a week or 2 weeks without being able to walk, it really does take its toll that I just want to get out a little bit more. And because of that feeling, it really has made me appreciate those poor people in care homes and in positions where they literally can't go out or haven't been able to go out for months. It must be really challenging and difficult to keep motivated. And this sort of, should we call it respite, coming out and enjoying the scenery and enjoying the fresh air and taking in the view, it really is good for the soul. Anyway, what's this video about? And it is, as I said at the beginning, it's about the benefits of an electric car and how I now appreciate them a lot more than I did before I had the electric car. But it's so difficult to get that across to people, those people that are thinking about going electric, that have petrol or diesel, and they're looking at the hype about what's bad about an electric car, the fake news about them, and then they're looking about the real enthusiasts about electric cars, and obviously sometimes that's over enthusiastic. So you have to read between the two, and just ultimately it's really difficult to understand what those benefits are until you experience them. And I had that the other day. We actually do have a petrol Mini on the driveway, and I went out to wash the Mini and started the car up to move it to give myself some more space. And there was a message that came up that said that the 12-volt battery was being drained. It had been stationary too long, so we needed to run the engine to charge the battery. So I have actually already plugged a charger onto it, and I'd left it on for half the day, the charger. So even with having done that, after another couple of weeks afterwards, it was run down, and it did need a trip out. So that was the first observation, that with a petrol car, I had to consider about the 12-volt battery being charged, and it was going to discharge without going for a drive, without running the engine. With a Kona Electric, it does it automatically. It's got an option on it for topping up the 12-volt battery, and overnight, whenever it detects that the 12-volt battery is too low, it turns on the high voltage battery, and starts charging the 12-volt battery for you, without you having to unlock the car, without you having to go in it, without having to go for a drive. The concept of having to turn an engine on and have the engine running and the key in the ignition versus an electric car which can just do it automatically and transfer energy from a high voltage battery to the 12-volt battery. You really don't appreciate that difference, that you're able to maintain a 12-volt battery so simply and so easily. And yet, yeah, I know some Hyundai cars have had failed batteries, and a lot of electric cars don't have those features to automatically top up, and you do have to go outside perhaps and turn the car on and it will recharge. I'm talking from my experience of the Kona Electric that does it automatically, and I wouldn't have appreciated that when I was buying the car, but I most certainly do now. It's nice that there's no worry about leaving the car stood for days, weeks, months even, that it's not going to lose charge like a Tesla. There's no vampire drain on this Kona Electric, and the 12-volt battery will be maintained. It's just a better system, and I think that's quite typical of electric cars, that they're just better. But you can't really see that until you've owned one. You can listen to people like me tell you, but it just doesn't sink in. You really have to not just drive one, but you have to own one. And that's what I want to try and convey today. A couple of these things that dawned on me, and try and get those across, that you will appreciate these things once you've had an electric car. You just don't know it, not until you've done it. So the other thing was, I was washing the car, so I actually left the engine running. It felt awful, absolutely awful, to have the engine running, burning petrol. But what I was noticing was, as I was going around the outside of the car washing it, I could smell the fumes. And it makes you realise that before I went electric, I would have done that and not thought twice about it. You look at things differently. You don't think about the emissions, you don't think about the smell, and you don't think about the fumes. You would just do the obvious. You're not going to bend down and suck the exhaust pipe. You're not going to breathe in the fumes. And when you're driving the car, well, the exhaust goes out the back anyway, doesn't it? So you don't notice the fumes anyway. So when you're a petrol and diesel owner, you are blinkered, I suppose is the right word, from emissions and the fumes. And it's only when you've had an electric car that you notice them so much more. Now, the Mini, it was just ticking over on the driveway, and there was I could only describe it as a clean smell. It wasn't a filthy, horrid petrol, diesel smell of, a really old car. It's a nice modern car. It's got the right catalysts on it. It's got the right protection to keep the emissions down, and it was, I guess, quite clean from a point of view of burning petrol. But still, that smell, and knowing that even as I was walking around the car I was breathing in those fumes, I didn't like it. I really didn't like having to go around the car and breathe in those fumes. And I was doing it. It's bad enough when it's somebody else's car that you go past and you think, oh, turn that engine off. But for me to be doing it myself, all I wanted to do was turn the engine off. I did not want to run that engine. And eventually I did take the car for a drive. We did a 5-mile trip round the block just to dry the car off afterwards, and also to get out for that sanity of actually going out in the car. But lastly, of course, to charge the battery up. So that's two instances that where it all adds up together, that the benefits of an electric car are so obvious. They're right in front of you, and you can listen to people talk about them, but they just don't hit you. They don't seem like worthwhile benefits that you would pay your money and buy that car for, or why you would choose an electric car rather than a non-electric one. But once you've had and owned an electric car, you'd appreciate those things a lot more. And the last obvious one from that day and that experience was simply the filling up of the petrol. We took it for that drive. Like I said, it was only 5 or 10 miles. But I noticed the bars on the side of the Mini dropped down from 3 to 2. And it crossed my mind at the time that, again, yes, when you own a petrol or diesel car, you think, well, it's only a couple of minutes, isn't it? I don't need to fill up today. Next time I go out in the car, I'll pop to the garage. It's only 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes to fill up the car, and I'll do it then. But the electric car, if if we'd have gone out for a drive in the Kona Electric and I plugged that back in when I get home, I haven't got to go out. I haven't got to go to a petrol station. I haven't got to encounter other people and smelly, dirty fuel. And I haven't got to go out of my way for those 5 minutes. I didn't have to go out. And you really don't appreciate that until you've owned an electric car and you haven't been to a petrol station. Well, you know, I haven't been to a petrol station to buy petrol for months and months and months. And, you know, if it wasn't for that Mini, then it wouldn't be at all. We wouldn't have gone in nearly 2 years. But again, it doesn't seem like a big deal, does it? Because you're saying, well, okay, you know, I'm avoiding going to a petrol station, but there's no hassle. There's one on the way. There's one where I'm going anyway, and I need to stop anyway, so I'll just stop for a couple of minutes. It's not an inconvenience to refill your car with petrol and diesel. Not really, you know, it's a minor thing. But when you own an electric car and you haven't had to do it, yeah, you really do appreciate that you haven't had to. And it's a bigger deal because I just noticed it that day that we brought the Mini back, and I thought, you know, we could do with filling the car up, but I'll do it another day. I don't feel like going to do it now. But with an electric car, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't have to fill up. You wouldn't think, do I have to go out now or do I have to go out tomorrow to do it? It's just plugged in and it's done. It's full of fuel every time you want to drive the car. You know, some people I know need electric cars and they drive them on long distance and they have to fill up at public chargers, and that's when the story changes. But for most people with an electric car, especially like myself, charging at a public charger is a rare thing. I don't often do it. The Kona's got such good range, and where I tend to drive to predominantly is well within the range of the car. So I'm always charging at home, and I'm charging for free on solar from my solar panels. So those three things all together, they're all things that you wouldn't want to say, you know, oh, you're not going to smell the emissions from your car when you're cleaning it. You can fill up your car as soon as you get back home. You haven't got to go out to a garage, and it tops the 12-volt battery up on its own. You wouldn't think that would help justify having an electric car, but I really can assure you that sat here now having that small experience of driving the Mini and those things, the Mini just seems old and backward. I mean, it's only got 2 bars now on the petrol and it's got 108 miles to go. The Mini is sat there with half the range on the driveway than my Kona Electric's got. So, you know, range is irrelevant in the Kona Electric, really, because it's so good. But all of these little things, they really add up, and they add up because they're better. The electric car is just better at being a car. So the only difference that we have between them, really, is the choice. That you may well consider you want, I don't know, say the coupe version of the Volkswagen Passat. You really like that car. Well, at the moment you can't have that car in an electric version, and there aren't many like it. There's no Audi A5 equivalents. You know, you got the Tesla, and that's it. And you've now got the Polestar coming out. But there's very few options, and I think that's what's been holding some people back, because they can't have the car they want. They can't have the ownership experience that they want, because they're struggling to let go of the brand image of, say, Volkswagen and the Audi and Mercedes and BMW, etc., and the driving experience they get in the car and the comfort and the luxury they have inside the car. Those things at the moment aren't easily replaceable with an electric car, but they will be soon. My point to this video is to say that yes, you're holding on to those things almost like a security blanket, because that's what you want from a car. What you're not realizing is, if you're thinking about buying an electric car and you can't quite make that jump, the benefits that you'll get, the enjoyment of having the electric car, is more than you understand now. You will appreciate it much more once you've done it. So if anyone's watching this that doesn't have an electric car yet and you're thinking about it, I would definitely encourage you to go electric. Even if you think you're compromising on the car, that the car isn't quite the car you want to buy, and it isn't quite the car that replaces what you've either got now or what you had in mind, there'll be benefits that will outweigh that. So there you go. There's my thoughts for the day, just from a simple experience of going out and washing my car. But the appreciation of the electric car and the appreciation of having gone electric just continues, and it continues to grow. I absolutely love it. And having a petrol car on the driveway, it does great. I would so much prefer to have an electric Mini on the driveway, but needs must. Finances justify. These things have to be done sometimes, and it won't be forever. Thanks for watching, as always. Please like the video if it's provided any benefit to you at all and you've watched it to the end, then you probably have enjoyed it, so click like please and subscribe to more videos. See you again soon. Bye bye for now.
Natural is not outspoken, but he likes to speak and he likes to be spoken to. Natural is happy in his way.